Hello, hello. This is the next re-recording of the solution videos for my puzzles that I'm going through. This one's for Swirlies. I'm re-recording all of these solely for the sake of the fact that I added hints to all the posts on Logic Masters, and figured that I might as well re-record the videos so that way they reference the hints directly, so that way you can jump ahead to parts of the videos with chapter markers for where the hints are mentioned, so that way you kind of know where to stop at if you're ready for the next hint, or you don't want to hear the next hint. You can continue solving and whatnot, so you can follow that sort of trajectory. So one of the other things I've updated recently is including versions of some of the puzzles here with some markers to clarify what type of lines and rules certain things are, just in case visual impairments or color blindness comes into play for anyone. I can't imagine that would be an issue on this one, just because I would think gray would be fine to see. And even if green isn't necessarily good to see, you can still tell it's a line, but I still, just for the sake of carefulness, I figured I'd just do this one that way anyways, just so there's a version that exists for it, just to be safe. So, with that said, quick review of the rules. I'm going to brush over this for the most part, because the assumption is you understand these already, or otherwise you can just watch how the solution video here is using all the rules, but we have normal Sudoku rules, 1 to 9 once each, in every row, column, and box. Thermometers. Digits on gray thermometers must increase from the bulb to the tip. So these circular parts are the bulbs, and then digits have to increase as we move along. German whispers. Adjacent digits on a green line must have a difference of at least 5. So if this was a 2, then both of these would need to be at least a 7. So 7, 8, or 9, in order to be at least 5 away from the 2. Killer cages. Digits in dotted line cages must sum to the number in the top left corner of the cage if given. And that's because some of these say 15, 7, 11, and 13. Some of them do not. You can clearly tell they're just there for the visual theme. That's the whole point of this puzzle. It's just a bunch of swirls. We also have a couple of X pairs, meaning that these two digits must sum to 10. Those two digits must sum to 10. And then finally, we have a single, I believe single, inequality symbol here. And the way I'm phrasing it here is that inequality symbols point to the lower of the two digits. So this must be lower than the digit underneath it here. Those are all the rules. Let's take a look at how to approach this. So right away, I'm going to start with hint number 1, because it's relevant for the very beginning step here. So if you're not sure how to begin, try and figure that out, but if you need the hint, hint 1 is, there's a few digits in row 5 that are very difficult to place with all of the thermometers placed. There's also some free digits in the German whisper boxes. So let's look at the German whispers first, just because those are a bit easier to logic our way through. German whisper lines, every digit has to be at least 5 away from the other one, which means 5 as a number itself is impossible to place on a green line, because to be 5 away from that, it would need to be 0 or 10. That's not valid. So in these boxes, 5 must go in the center, because it's the only part that's not on a green German whisper line. So those are the free digits over there. Now row 5 is a little trickier to kind of see through, but we need to think about the fact that almost all of this row is made up of thermometers, but specifically midsections of thermometers. So that should immediately raise your attention towards digits like 1 and 9, because 1 on a thermometer has to be at the beginning, and a 9 would have to be at the end. Which means in this row, 1 and 9 are very restricted on where you could place them. 1 and 9 must go in there. And then sneakily, another digit that's hard to place is 8. And that's because these little segments of the thermometers, they're not only in the middle sections, but they're also 2 away from the end of each respective thermometer. There's 2 cells after each one. Meaning 8 is also impossible to place on any of them. Because if you put an 8 here, what could you put after? You'd have to put a 9 there to increase, and then you would have no digits available for the final segment. And these are all symmetrical, so the same applies for all of them. So 8 is also included in those 3 digits. Every other number is possible to place on the thermometers. You could, a 1-9 pair, or rather you could put like an 8 here and have a 2 there, that would work. You could put, say, a 3 here and then go 3, 6, 7, Every other digit is fine to place onto these, but 1, 9, and 8 are impossible too. So now, we can look a little closer and see this is now an X, so this is either 1, 9, or 2 on that side. And as we just discussed, you can't have any 1 or 9s in the middle of these, so that just has to be 2 with the 8 over there. which means 1 and 9 are now forced into these areas. And now we can do a little better than that, because this is on a less than symbol. So 9 is certainly not going to be less than anything, so that has to be the 1 there. 9 over here. And that now gives us a little bit of info, because this is now a 2 on a thermometer with something below it. So that must be a 1. And so now we get hint number 2, which is honestly less of a hint and more of just like general advice and kind of guiding you on kind of where to look next, so to speak. It doesn't really tell you the logic itself. But hint 2 is just says to focus on rows 4 to 6, because all of the thermometers are resolvable before moving on to the rest of the puzzle. Meaning we can work out all of this before going anywhere else. Focus on where the low digits must go, and if needed, be generous with your pencil marking. Always make sure that the low and high pencil marks on each thermometer are adjusted as you place digits. And so this is a really good demonstration of how to pencil mark thermometers. A lot of people don't really bother. They try to kind of do this without that. Obviously, fine, more power to them. I'm more the type to just kind of type in all the options for each. If you watch Cracking the Cryptic, that's kind of referred to as pulling a mark or doing a Goodliffing, is what we call it, because his last name is Goodliff, and he does a lot of just pencil marking aggressively on things like thermometers, whereas Simon doesn't as much. I'm more of a mark, so that's what we'll be doing here. So the way we pencil mark these is you want to take the minimum possible value and increase that as we move along the thermometer. So 3 and then 4. And then do the same, but for the high digit moving down. The highest that could be is a 9. And the highest this could be would be an 8, but it can't be an 8, so it must actually be a 7. And so that is the kind of two extreme ends of what could go in each cell. But it could be things in the middle. So the lowest is 3, highest is 7 here. It could be 4, 5, or 6. This could be 5, 6, 7. Can't be 5 because it's on an X, so we can take that out. But now this is a 9 with a 1, a 7 with a 3, and then a 4 or a 6 with a 4 or a 6 underneath it. So this is going to seem like ridiculous overkill at first, but we can do that for all of these thermometers. And the reason I'm doing that is just because it's going to make it easier to visually see what's kind of where certain things have to go. Going to get a couple easier digits first, though. 1 is locked out of these in this box 1, and 1 is certainly not going here or there on this thermometer. So 1 must go there. And now, continue that pattern looking at other low digits. 2 is going to be a bit restricted now. 2 in this box. Now can't go here. Can't go in those middle spots. 2 is definitely not going at this point of a thermometer or there, or any of those spots. So 2 is over here. And now 2 is now pressured on this box to not go in either of those spots. 2 is in the bottom right corner of that one. Now we can do some more pencil marking and say 3, 4, 5. Can't be a 5, so that's actually 6. Then that's 9, 8, 7. And now fill in the middle portions. Do the same thing here. This can't be 1 or 2, so that's going to start as a 3, 4, 5, 6. Highest digits 9, 8, 7, 6. Same idea here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. This one's a little more restricted. Only 3 options for these. This one, 3, 4, 5. Not a 5, it's a 6. Can't be a 9, so that's 8, 7, and 6. Just 7 in between there. Can't be a 2, so minimum 3, 4, 5. Not a 5, 6. Yeah, once you do this a bunch, this is a bit easier to kind of do on a regular basis. Again, a lot of people would find this overkill, but the benefit of this is it becomes a lot easier to see that there's other digits that are forced into certain areas now within either a box or a row. Such as, where does 3 go in this row? Can't go in any of these spots, and it can't go there. The only spot for 3 is that. That takes out 3 over here. I'm trying to remember what to look at next. We have 3 in the middle of this row here. I'm drawing a blank on where to look next. It's been a while since I've kind of gone through this one. Ooh, yeah. Taking out 3 from here means this is a pencil mark we can adjust now. Because this now, the minimum of this is no longer just 4. That has to be a minimum 5 to adjust for that, which makes that one a little better. The other ones seem still fine. What am I forgetting about here? Oh, yeah, that's what it was. Taking out 4 from here means 4 in this row is now pressured over here. The only spot in the row for 4 is that. So 4 comes out from all of those spots. Now this has to be something in between 1 and 4. So that has to be 3. That's the only option that was there. That's going to adjust our pencil marking here, because that's 5 going up to 6, which is going up to 7 as the minimum there. Hmm. 7 in this middle right box over here is pretty restricted. That's because it's the only spot in the row where 7 can go. And now, so that actually gives us a pretty interesting pattern in box 6 over here, because whichever one has 7 is going to have to be 7, 8, 9, because that's just the only way to fill that. And if we have one of these be 7, 8, 9, the other one has to be 4, 5, 6. So that actually means this would never be 5 or 6 there, because one of these will be a 4, the next would be 5, and then 6, or 8 and 9, like that. That's just the way you adjust the pencil marks to reflect that exact deduction we just got, recognizing that you would never have the 6, 7, 9, or something like that here. It's going to have to be exactly one of them is 7, 8, 9, the other's 4, 5, 6. Otherwise, you break the thermometer pattern. That now gives us a 4, 7 pair in the row, so 4 comes out from there. That's going to further adjust our pencil marks here, because now minimum is now 6 here, minimum there is now 7. Now we have a 6, 7, 9 triple here. So that is not 7, that's not 6, so that must be 8 with 5 over here. And that tells us this one is the 4, 5, 6. That's the 7, 8, 9 there. That's now a 7 with a 9 above it. 7 and 3, 9 and 1 come out from there. That's not a 7, so that is now 7, 6, 5 there. 6 comes out from those, and 6 goes there. That's a 4 with the 6 underneath. And now this needs to be between 2 and 4, so that is a 3, that's a 5. That completes the middle 3 rows. So again, that hint number 2 probably could have been a little more direct on sort of what to do, because even I kind of forgot where to look for a second, because it's not very obvious that those 3 rows are actually resolvable, because even though it is a lot of information on the thermometers, you do have to do a lot of hunting to find where all the low and high digits could possibly go, and it turns out to be a very restricting pattern, more so than I expected when I was creating this. I just put the thermometers there and found that that apparently actually just works pretty much as it is. Needed help from the 5s here, as well as the X clue, but yeah, so we can now look at some of the cages, because these are probably restricted now. I use the killer calculator here. If you want to enable that, you go to Settings, Advanced, Killer Calculator. It just displays all the options for each cage. I think it's a time saver. It's good for you to try to memorize them off the top of your head, but I know them well enough that I just do it this way. So this is either 2, 9, 3, 8, 4, 7, or 5, 6. It can't be a couple of those. It can't be 3, 8 because of the column. It can't be 4, 7 because of the column. That can't be 5. That can't be 6. A 13 cage is one of 3 options. And it can't be 5, 8, or 6, 7. So that just is 4, 9. Which means 9 comes out from the 11 cage. So it can't be a 2, 9. That must be 6 and 5. These cages, 6, 9, and 7, 8. It's certainly not 6, 9, so that is a 7, 8. And this is either 1, 6, 2, 5, or 3, 4. Not 1, 6. Can't be 5, 2, and it can't be 3, 4 in those directions. So let's look over at this area now, because we just added all these digits up here looking down, and those digits up here looking down. So a good question to ask here would be 4 and 6 are always difficult numbers to place on German Whispers. 6 can't go here from the column, and 6 can't go here from that column. So 6 also then can't go here. So 6 is locked into that spot, and 6 has to go 1 when it's on German Whisper. That is now 5 away from that, and that's 5 away from that. Now we can do very similar idea with 4s now, because 4 over here, 4 and 9 in that cage here, and we have 5 and 6 locked out there. So that must be a 4, and similar, 4s must be paired with 9s. That gives us 3 over here. Being 5 away from that means this has to be an 8. And now these just have to be 2 and 7 to finish off the box. And so the German Whispers resolve pretty nicely after all that. The columns are almost done as well. Here we need a 7. And here we need a 1, 2, 3. And that needs to be an 8. So that's some good progress here. Maybe it makes sense to now look at the other German Whispers. Unfortunately, not as easy to work with because these cages, the ones that gave us information, aren't pointing in the same direction. But we can get some deductions out of this. So, for example, 6 is all locked out of those spots. 6 also can't be in these corner spots like these and these, because they would be paired with double 1s on either side, which would break the puzzle. So, 6 is in one of those 2 spots, which means 1 is in one of those 2 spots in the center, because wherever the 6 goes, the 1 is next to it. We don't know which, but that does tell us 1 in this row is locked over here. So 1 comes out from there. That's not a big deduction, but it's something to take note of at least. Trying to remember if there's much else we can do. I don't believe we can work out the lows and highs quite yet on this, but I am going to do full pencil marking here just for the sake of it. So here, it's going to seem a little silly at first, but we said 6 can't go into those spots, so 6 and 1 are locked into those, so 1 is not anywhere else. Just make sure I keep up with the pencil marking. And yeah, so you'll see that it's hard to reduce this further. We can't put 4 here, because that would give double 9s there. Same with that. I think that's about all we can do for now with that. The next hint is what comes up now, which actually refers exactly to the situation of, it begins with, if you're stuck resolving the German Whisper in box 3, which is where we are now, keep an eye out for a sneaky naked single in one of the lower rows. That will help resolve the cages in box 9, which in turn helps with box 3. So that is referring to something going on in the lower rows down here where there's a naked single. A naked single is when a single cell can only be one thing, just based on numbers it sees. And so I will jump ahead and point out what that cell is now. This cell is important. It sees 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. That has to be a 5. The remaining parts of the row are 1 and 2 in that order there. More importantly than that, 5 is now pressured in this box. Can't go over here. 5 must go inside the 7 cage. It's the only place where it can fit. So that gives us 5 and 2, which gives us 1 and 2 there. And that is now going to resolve most of this up here, because 1 can no longer go here, meaning this is not the side where the 6 goes. The 6 must go here with a 1 next to it there. We now know the order of the lows and highs on this, so this now has to be a high digit here, and that must be a low digit here. Here, we now have a pretty interesting 2, 4, 9 triple, and we have 2 low digits and a high digit here. And we have exactly that on the green line. 2 of these must be one polarity, 1 must be the other. So the only way to make this work without repeating a digit is to have the 2 lows on the outside and the high digit in between, with the 9 there. So that's 2, that's 4. That gives us 3 and 8 over there, 7 up there. That resolves our 15 cage. It also gives us information over here. We now know the 4 and the 9 worked out there. Finally, we can maybe go try and tidy up this box. We can say that must be 3, 4, 6, and 9. And we're going to know where all of those digits go, except for the 3, 9 in this order here. So now, it's pretty much just classic Sudoku to wrap it up, because all the cages are worked out, there's no variant rules left that haven't been touched upon. So this is now the point where we can start to just look for places to fill in digits. So 1 is locked out of those spots, 1 goes in somewhere there. 4 is locked out there, 4 is locked out here, so 4 is in one of 2 spots there. 5 and 6 already placed. 7 is out of those, so 7 goes here. We're not getting much progress down here yet. 8's locked out there, but it's good to take note of this stuff anyways. 9's locked out there. We actually don't know anything about 9's down here, anything relevant, so I'm not going to continue with that. We can look up here now, though. 1 is locked out there and here. Not quite enough to mark that down yet. 1, 2, and 3 are going to be hard because we don't know 1, 2, and 3 order here, so let's jump ahead and look at 4. 4 is there, 4 is here. 4 is not there. So we have 4s in that pattern there. 5s. 5s are going to be placeable. So now we have 5s here, and 5s here looking up there. So that actually was very easily gettable, because that's just our last 5 in the grid. 6s are locked out of those, as well as these. So 6 must go there. 7s. 7's locked there. 7's in one of 2 spots there. 8 here. Center. And 9's. And 9 is placeable here. So that still didn't really give us a whole lot of information. And we got a couple digits, but it does mean we have a couple other options. Like we could fill in a 1-2 pair here. 1, 3, and 4 in some order there. And that now makes it a little more easy to see without it being pencil marking like 6 digits. It's only a couple now we're placing. You can more easily spot things like hidden singles now, where this, that's the only place where 4 can go in that cell. That's a 1 and a 3 now. That means 4 comes out from here and 4 goes there. Let's see where to look next. This column needed an 8 somewhere in it, and it no longer can go there because 4 is taken up. It's taken out from there, so that must be 8 there. That gives us 8 up here. That means we need a 3 and a 9 to finish off the row here. That gives us 3 there, 9 here, 3 there. This is now a triple, which is 1, 7, and let's see, 9. The 1's there. 7 and 9 in that order there. That gives us 7 up here, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, and the last remaining option here looks like a, what is it? 2. That took me a second to find. I am trying to get better at scanning the grid for classic Sudoku stuff like that, but yeah, the end of this puzzle is pretty good. Catch up on your skills for catching those sorts of things. And the end message says, hope you didn't get too dizzy looking at the swirlies. I just thought it was a cool visual pattern to try to keep. I couldn't find a way to make these cages exist without either being super trivial or too much information to give, so I settled for just not giving the totals and having them just there for the visual aspect. Yeah, thank you for watching.